not members already of the DataViz group, this short link will get you to our Meetup site, where you can sign up and get notifications for future events. If you're not already on the Wi-Fi, you need to get on the Wi-Fi here. You have to join SMU Guest, and it's going to make you log in and send you a password to get in. So there is a way to do that if you guys want to get onto the Wi-Fi. Tonight we have a couple sponsors still. VisMe is an online site. I'll talk about it in just a moment. InfoNewt's my company. So I've been paying the meetup fees and the refreshments every time. And of course we thank SMU for giving us meeting space every month. We really appreciate that. They give us a free place to meet. VisMe, if you've never heard of it, I'll give you their quick pitch. They're an online, not only infographics, but also presentations and banners, animations. If you want to do some sort of graphic resume, you can do that online as well. But for us, as part of their sponsorship, they're giving a 30% off discount code, Cool30, and that's forever. So it's an annual subscription service, but if you sign up for it, you'll get that 30% off for basically the lifetime of your account. But the nice thing about VisMe, and when I talk about it to do infographics, is it's not just icons and images. It's also actual charts and data visualizations that are built in so that you can edit the data and it will edit the chart instead of you having to do it manually. And they have a great set of publishing tools, so you can, of course, export it, but also publish it to PDF or take embed code and embed it onto your website, that kind of thing. And that's why they also do web banners under that same thing. And they also have an amazing presentation tool. They're really trying to beef that up and start going after the PowerPoint market and really do all their presentations online. And it's just a really powerful tool. So it's free to try if you just want to go out there and play around with it. But you can use this Cool30 discount code for the rest of March to get that 30% off. So I encourage you to check it out. These are our goals. Basically, we're trying to create a community here in DFW. This is our 4th meeting, so thank you for coming out. We are pretty close to having 300 members at this point, which is fantastic. Our objective, right, is to engage and bring speakers in. We're working with as many local speakers as we can because we don't have money to fly people in yet. But we also want to talk about tools. We want to talk about case studies and the ways people are using infographics and DataViz, and then also help you learn best practices. If you know anybody that wants to speak or you want to speak, please give me a ring because we're always looking for local speakers. I'll open it up from an employment standpoint. Does anybody have open positions they want to announce to the group that they're looking to fill in design, DataViz, infographics, even like SEO and online content marketing? Anybody looking for work? Want to share it?
Hi, my name is Lu Wang, and I'm a current SMU student, and I'm a master student who study in statistics. I'm looking for summer internship, especially related to statistics. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, keep trucking right along. Last month, we did a panel with the Dallas Morning News and the Dallas Business Journal, and I videotaped it for the first time, tried to experiment with that. If you guys haven't looked at it, I appreciate it if you take a look. Let's determine, is this worth it? I'd love to get feedback from you on whether we want to keep doing that, or if that's just a whole lot of extra work that nobody cares about. So I'm certainly open to, this was horrible, I just want to get some feedback from you guys and make sure at least somebody's actually looking at it. And we're trying it again tonight, so you'll be able to look at tonight's as well. Coming up, next month is going to be April 21st. I haven't put it out on the calendar yet. We're going to be April 21st back down in Dallas, right? I'm proposing that the next talk be a summary. I just got back from Spain over the weekend. I was a judge at this year's Infographics World Summit, which is called Malafiage. That's my bad American pronunciation of that. Malafiage. But as a judge, there were 2 teams. It was mostly print infographics and news and visual journalism. And there were like, I think, 1,400 entries in the award process. And so I was on the team that was judging the online piece, and we had a little over 458 entries. So I thought it would be interesting for you guys to see who won, right? So really to bring up the gold medal winners and some of the other designs that we really saw from all over the world, and to basically do a recap of what we learned at the World Summit for Infographics and sort of show you, specifically the online, because that's a whole lot easier to show, the award-winning pieces. So if you guys are up for that, that's what I'll plan for in the April meeting. Open to future topics. We took some brainstorming last month, as well as before. I'm going to make a suggestion for May that we do a design tool demo night. But to do that, I'm asking you guys, and I'll send a note out to everybody so that everybody who's not here gets the same message. But I want to get like 6, 7, 8 of you to come up here and plug in and demo 1 or 2 of your favorite tools. And we'll just do like 5 minutes each and see if we can get enough people to just demo some tools and stuff you use to do DataViz today. And if you like that, and we get enough people signed up to step up and do it, because I don't want to do it all, then we'll plan that for the May event as well. But I'm always open to either future topic requests, or if you know of a speaker that we want to bring in, please let me know. You can contact me, my card's over there, but through the website, through the Meetup group, you can send me a note anyway. Upcoming events, I'm going to talk tomorrow night at the Dallas UX group, doing one on infographic design tools and tips. So if you guys want to see that, you're welcome to do that, but I'll do that also for this group at some future date as well. So it's not your only time to see that, but if you want to see it tomorrow night, you can. That's going to be over at, I just lost the word, Innovation Enterprises, right. But I open this up to you guys. Are there any other events you guys know of coming up in April that you want to announce to the group and share with the group?
So can I plug Digital Dallas?
Absolutely.
I'm on the board of a group called Digital Dallas. You go to digitaldallas.org. You can find out more about it and sign up for a newsletter. That's the best way to find out what we're doing. Currently, the plan for April is an event on clean tech, so technology that helps us improve our environment or lessen our impact on the environment. Could be really interesting.
And the date again was?
It's on the site.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other events you know of that you're going to that you want to share or that you're part of?
Yeah, actually there are 2 groups. There's one big data group that's tomorrow. That's in
Tomorrow?
Dallas. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's part of the local big data Hadoop meetup. The huge data will be presenting on their product,
Mm-hmm.
and they're talking about the data science. And then myself, I do the big data Hadoop consulting and the training. So we are working on doing a Hadoop and big data training here, SMU, probably sometime in middle of November and December. And if you want to attend the big data training sooner, I'll be doing one private, but that's April 4th and 5th. So if any of you are interested in it, you can discuss with me after this presentation.
Hadoop and big data.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anybody else? Dan?
Yeah, the Dallas-Fort Worth Search Engine Marketing Group will be meeting on April 8th. We'll bring in a guy from Bing/Microsoft. He's the #1 guy there, and the title is Beyond Marketing, Data, Decision Making, and the Future of Search. So if you're interested, I can get you a free pass and go. It's a NOAA's Event Center in Richardson on April 8th. Thank you, Rain.
Yep. Okay. Quick note, I'm going to start teaching a class on DataViz and infographics at SMU. It's going to be at the Dallas Cape building. It starts April 7th, so we got 2 weeks. But there is a discount code for the Meetup group here if you want to use MUEV. And SMU has this really long URL for the class, so this bit.ly link will get you right down to the class. So we have a few spots left in the class, and we're going to really go through storytelling data, what makes good DataViz, what makes bad DataViz. It's going to be a hands-on course. You bring your laptop. We actually are going to do design, and you're going to have some designs of your own by the end of the class. So any questions, I can answer those after we're done here. Big Design Dallas Conference is in September, but their super duper early bird pricing ends March 31st. So if you have any interest, #1, you can get their early bird price, but with our DataViz discount code, you can get an additional 20% off of that. So if you're planning on going to the big design conference, this is the best price you'll get anywhere right now. And that's what I got. So let me introduce you to our speaker tonight, Eric Swayne. And he does so much stuff, I'm going to let you run through all the things that you're involved with.
I have a chronic problem with saying no, so some of you might understand that.
Oh, and while he's plugging in, if you know of anybody else who might be interested in joining our group, I have these cards made up and you can print them off the Meetup site. But basically they just have the URL for the Meetup group. So if you just wanted something you could hand to somebody and say, hey, we've got this group going on, come out and join us next month. Grab some of these and just take them with you. These are for you guys to spread out if you know other people that would be interested. All right, closer to the screen and back.
Close to the screen. I hate it when the speaker gets up and the first thing they say is, I'm nursing a cold or I have allergies. I'm nursing a cold and have allergies, so I apologize up front for the copious amounts of water I'm about to drink and the coughing that will be about to happen. So enjoy that on the YouTubes. All right. A couple of things I'm involved in my day job, if you will. I'm the head of product and marketing for a company called Mutual Mind, not Mutual Fund, Mutual Mind. We are a social intelligence platform. We enable our customers to visualize and analyze and act on social data. So if you go to mutualmind.com, you guys saw earlier the engagement center I put up. We also have a full desktop application in this really cool rules engine that's kind of like if this then that for social data. So if you want to know about that, glad to tell you about it, and I'm glad to give you all the business cards I got. A friend of mine and I started a side project called Draw Attention, which is at drawattention.co, and we make whiteboards for laptops. This is not a whiteboard, this is a black one because I'm testing out a prototype on my laptop. But if you would like to get a real honest-to-goodness whiteboard for the back of your laptop, you can go to drawattention.co, and they are highly snazzy, and I love them to death. So I encourage you to get them. What I'm about to share with you is actually a long process. I presented this at South by 2014, last year, and have been constantly iterating on it since, particularly so because I've been engaged to write a book on it. So I will have a book on this topic. Current ETA is February 2016, and God help me, I hope to have the manuscript done in time so all that happens. But I guarantee this group will be the first to find out about that book because I think it'd be really great. Randy has already participated in the feedback process for that book. I want to start out by introducing you to a few people. Not me. I want to introduce you to a guy named Ladislav Sutnar. I would be very surprised if any of you knew who Ladislav Sutnar is, but he was a fantastic graphic designer. In fact, he's an AIGA Medal Award winner, which there ain't that many of them. And he worked in both Paris and New York, designing amazing visualizations. And in fact, before World War II brought to an amazing halt the 1943 World's Fair, he was on set to design the Czech Republic's presence at the World's Fair. Unfortunately, Hitler got in the way, which is why we got him in the United States. And he took a journey then to Bell Labs and was doing tons of infographics and work for them. This one at the bottom here is actually from 1948. So don't tell me that infographics are anything new. This is extremely old. But one of my favorite things he did for Bell Labs was something that I believe changed your life. Ladislav Sutnar was the first person to change this into this. Think about how much easier that's made reaching a phone number. Now, literally 911 doesn't exist if this doesn't happen first. I like to say he changed the forgettable into the memorable. He changed random digits into, can I have your digits? And he changed chaos into meaning. Now hold on to that for a second. I want to introduce you to someone else. This person you probably know a lot better. This is Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale you probably know for the Nurse with the Lamp and this type of motif. But I'm here to tell you, girl was a geek. And girl was a very good geek too. This was created by Florence Nightingale. This is called a diagram of the causes of mortality in the Army of the East. It compares the time period of April 1855 to March 1856 to April 1854 to March 1855. And if we look a little bit closer at it, the blue, red, and black wedges indicate deaths during the different months of that time period. The black is direct death from military harm, the red is direct death from friendly fire, and the blue is what she calls preventive deaths from preventable or mitigable zygomatic diseases. This is deaths due to poor hygiene. And this was what she was trying to explain to those who would not listen to her. Think of her message being a woman, which we must say at this time period was very hard to get across. She understood that having the truth is not enough. We need what these two people have brought to our world by the gallon right now. To throw some wildly brain-numbing stats at you, the annual global IP traffic will surpass the zettabyte threshold by the end of 2017. So let's play the game. Megabyte, what's next? Gigabyte, what's next? Terabyte, anyone want to know what's next? Petabyte, okay, what's next? Exabyte, what's next? Zettabyte, what's after that? Yottabyte, thank you. Oh, you win the prize. Very good. The American Studies students ranked 25th in math, 17th in science, and 14th in reading compared to students in 27 industrialized countries, according to OECD in 2012. This is not to make you feel bad. I'm a father of 3 children myself. It's mostly to tell you that the person on the other end of your report, your app, or your Polycom telephone is probably not a math whiz. Just saying. And finally, on average, American web surfers have an 8-second attention span, which is 1 second shorter than that of a goldfish. That's right. This thing has a better attention span than your average American web surfer. Unbelievable. We need to take a journey, and this whole topic is about really calling us to take that journey. We need to take the journey from being data janitors to being data narrators. And this is not a title you'll find on any business card yet. Maybe you will someday. But it's something that is a massive vacuum inside of our organizations that we work in. A good data narrator does 2 things. First, they find insights. We're going to have a very particular definition for what an insight is. And second, they make those insights stick to users. It is not enough to have the insight. You literally have to convey it to the user. The word convey is the same term that we use for the word conveyor belt. It is the operation of transmitting or carrying an idea from one place to another. So, what makes an insight? My background is at digital marketing agencies and digital advertising agencies before joining Mutual, where I was a part of or led strategy and analytics teams. What I would tell my team when I asked them to find me some insights was that it had to have 3 things. First, it is something you don't know. There are lots of things that I already know. If you tell them to me again, you are just repeating what's already in my head. Second, it is something I should know. There are lots of things that I don't know, that I don't need to know or want to know. It is something that I should know. And finally, it is something, if it will work, clicker died. Or my laptop died, one of the 2. And finally, it is something, something that you can change. So an insight has to have those 3 components. It has to be something I don't know, something I should know, and something I can change. There are lots of things that I don't know, that I should know, that I have no control over. If you're telling me that, you're just making me depressed instead of actually giving me an insight. So now let me attempt to make the laptop work, and if it won't, we will get to punt in some other fancy way. Some of you will laugh at me for using Windows, but I dare you to use Excel on Mac, okay? We'll let that reboot. A couple of interesting things about an insight that I learned from my consulting experience. One of my jobs was consulting with Dr. Pepper Snapple Group when I was part of Mark Research and led their social analytics team. When we were teaching them an insight, let's see if that's beautiful. Let me skip over to back where I was. When we were talking to Dr. Pepper about insights for them, every single time we did analysis on them, they were smaller than Coke. No matter what you do, Dr. Pepper is always smaller than Coke. And they were constantly measuring themselves against Coke. But it was very, very hard to describe an insight because it was something they already knew. They always knew they were smaller than Coke, and they always knew they would be smaller than Coke. So we had to really break their minds about what was a competitor for them, because Coke is not really in their same ballpark. And that's how we had to change their minds about what actually is an insight. But I want to start by showing you what I consider to be the ultimate Beatles infographic. Randy can probably give you the full provenance of this infographic. I don't even remember who made it. But to give you some ideas about how it's created, the distribution of authorship is given by these different colors for the different Beatles in the infographic. And it shows which percentage they contributed, basically. So if you take a look here, you'll see things like Good Day Sunshine, which was all Lennon. If you take a look over here, you'll find my favorite Beatles song, which is While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which is all George, who's the best Beatle, and I will not take any different. And finally, if you look over here, you will see Ringo with his one song, which is Octopus's Garden. Great tune there. So if you want to know what the Beatles did or how they did it, this is the perfect infographic to show you. Now, hold on to that. I want to show you a different infographic. This is called Death and Taxes. This infographic has been around since 2004. This is the 2015 version. And it renders for us the American budget. So we'll take a tour. The size of the bubble indicates the amount of that, the proportion of that department's budget in relation to the rest of it. And there's some numbers there for exactly how much. Changed since 2013 and changed since they started in 2004. This is the Department of Defense. It is the largest bubble on the infographic. This little red question mark right here, that is classified spending for that department. We do not know what that money does.
On these types of infographics, is it generally recognized that the sizes, the relative size, is that a mathematical? It's not just an eyeballing like,
oh, yes.
This is really big, so I'll just make the circle really big.
Actually, if you find out how, who did this one, Randy?
Time Plots bought it,
Yeah,
but
Time
Jess
Plots.
Bachman did the originals.
Yeah, Jess Bachman. If you find out how he did it, he actually had to program it. It's mathematically, it's programmatically generated. It's not generated in Photoshop or Illustrator.
Yeah.
That's not actually true. He started in Photoshop.
He started in Photoshop?
His first ones were done entirely in Photoshop, and he did all the calculations in spreadsheets.
Yeah.
But you have to calculate the area of all the circles.
Do not show infographics in front of Randy Crum, because he will call you on that. This is the Department of Education. This little green blob right up here is Student Aid Administration. This is the Department of Health and Human Services. This little dot right up here is the amount the FDA spends on researching drugs and making sure they're safe for us. The interesting thing about this infographic and why I bring it up and why it's been so popular is because it immediately creates a reaction in people. No matter what you think, you have a reaction to this some way or another. And I like to say the difference between this infographic and the Beatles infographic is that while nothing can change about the Beatles because they are mostly dead, Congress theoretically should be different and should be able to change. And that's why the second infographic actually provides me insights, because it's things I can change, versus the first infographic, which just tells me interesting facts. Insights matter because it's not about this output you're showing, it's about the next conversation they're having. As an analyst, I get really excited about shiny objects, about beautiful things I can put in a PowerPoint. about really cool 3D infographics or animated things. The fact is, a pie chart can be just as impactful as the most geek-on up infographic if it tells me something that's critical to my business. It is not about what you are presenting right now. It is about that you want to create an idea in the head of those who are hearing or seeing or using your app so that they go and communicate what you just told them. If you can do that, then you've succeeded. I want to talk to you about 4 rules that will help you make that happen. And these are not the only rules, but these are at least some components that can help you with that process. So the first rule, decide where the eye will go first. Now thank God we have in this room a number of UXers that actually do this for a living and do it quite well, and you should talk to them about it. But I think it has to be said. There is an actual law called Fitts' Law. It says that the larger and more prominent an object is, the faster you will be able to reach it. Can anyone tell me what's wrong with this picture? Yes, that's a problem. You know what's actually wrong with this picture? There's a dog flying the airplane, that's right. You know when I found out there's a dog flying the airplane? After I presented at South by Southwest, the guy raised his hand, said, "Could you go back 30 slides? There's a dog flying that airplane." I didn't even see it until I'd actually presented this at South by. That is Fitts' Law. The way they discovered this law is actually through a test where they would put a piece of paper in front of people and have bars of varying widths and varying distances and ask people to tap back and forth between the bars as fast as they possibly could in 60 seconds. And it turns out there's an actual formula. It follows a mathematical formula, your ability to reach those destinations in a given amount of time. And in fact, if you'd like to test yourself, you can go to bit.ly/fits and you can do your own test of Fitts' Law and see how well you do. But let's take that to an app. This is an app. I'm not going to even tell you where it came from. It doesn't matter where it came from. But what is the first thing you looked at? Probably this pie chart right here. Why? Because it is the most colorful thing on the piece of paper. Is that the most important pie chart on this app? We don't know. Probably not. But the fact is that they have, by creation, made this the first thing I look at. And they've wasted my first glance. Never waste the first glance. You have so much opportunity when someone first sees your data to control what they look at. I really like to focus in on specific components. This is a report I generated back when I was at Mark. You'll notice that I chopped off 3/4 of the pie chart. It's irrelevant. It's all the quick serve restaurants, which are McDonald's, Burger King, etc. Those are irrelevant to my client, which happen to be Denny's. So we only focus them on those tiny slices that they represent. Unfortunately, it's smaller than everybody else in their category. I really like what SumAll does. When you take a look at a line chart, they actually provide this magnifying glass type of view upon it so that I can see more clearly a given perspective on that data. You can go to sumall.com. It is a free service. You can plug in your own social media and get your own stats. It's actually a really cool service. Second rule, see the pattern, know the pattern, break the pattern. All right, let's play a little game. I'm going to flip a coin. I'm going to flip it 5 times. The first time, it comes up heads, 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 heads. Okay? Second time it comes up heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails. Heads. Which one is more random? Neither! The coin is what is known as a stateless object. It does not know or care what the last throw was. How many of you have been to Vegas and stood outside of the roulette tables and seen those polls that are outside the roulette tables that show the last 30, 40, 50 numbers that have been spun? Why does Vegas do this? Because they want you to believe that a certain table is hot or cold or due for a given number. Is that correct? No! It has no bearing on the number whatsoever, but they want you to believe that. This is our brain desperately seeking patterns, and we will always do it infallibly. This is a chart from a financial document. You know that because this is an utter and complete lie. There is no correlation between these numbers whatsoever. However, if you take a look at this as a CEO, that next line for 2013 better be higher, because I've been led to believe that it's going to be higher, because you've shown me a beautiful chart with a beautiful pattern. But the fact is, this may or may not happen. Nate Silver is kind of the godfather of all things infographic, even all things data these days. And his book called The Signal and the Noise is absolutely required reading for anyone in analytics, if you ask me. And he says this is why the housing bubble occurred. We had a beautifully flat scene in housing mortgages. That investment was rock solid, no problem. Unfortunately, it didn't take into account the fact there's a lot of extra money sloshing around in the ecosystem at the time. And if you dump a lot of money into that ecosystem seeking out worse and worse and worse mortgages, then there can be a catastrophic effect. That's the problem, is we all thought there was a pattern and there really wasn't one. I'm a big baseball geek. Probably not surprising to you because I like stats. But I really like what ESPN Gamecast does. And if you ever get to watch a baseball game, have this open while you're watching it. Because they do this little thing right here where they show who the projected winner is. That stat changes with every single pitch, with every single play. So it actually, when their game is 9-0, bottom of the ninth, dude's up the lap with two strikes, and he's got a batting average of 233, it'll say it's actually about a 98% chance that team, the home team's going to win. So it's amazing that it tells me, really, there's actually still a chance, and it breaks that pattern that I think is already well known. Third, thou shalt know thy users' biases. Let's take a tour through a study called Motivated Numeracy and Enlightened Self-Government, which is a great title, let me tell you. This was done by Harvard, the University of Yale, and the University of Oregon. It starts out with a survey where they tested people on math skills, and they figured out whether you're pretty good at math or not. The second part of the survey went like this. There was a cream created for a rash treatment. Some of the cream had chemical X, doesn't matter what. Some of the cream did not have chemical X. Okay? Some of the people using the cream got better. Some of the people using the cream got worse. And they put this in front of people, and they said, here's the results. With chemical X, 223 got better, 75 got worse. Without chemical X, 107 got better, 21 got worse. Now, which cream is more effective for treating this rash? Any guesses? Second one. This is a 74% success rate. This is an 84% success rate. So that is the real answer, even though the top one has bigger numbers. People that had high math skills generally got this right as about 40% of the people surveyed. People that didn't have good math skills generally got it wrong, and it's about 60% of the people there. So, you know, good on math. What they did is they then took the exact same numbers, and they said a gun ban policy was issued in a major metropolitan city. In some cases, crime got better. In some cases, crime got worse. In some cases, guns were allowed, and in some cases, guns weren't. Now, they flip-flopped the numbers just to make sure that they weren't just running down C in some tests, but they made sure that they were offering the exact same structure of the question. Now, here's what's fascinating. Same numbers, same structure, but if you were in favor of guns, then if the question said keeping guns was a good idea, you got it right. Even better than your math skills. There's a higher rate of success. If the question said keeping guns was a good idea and you personally felt keeping guns was a bad idea, you would get this question wrong no matter what the data said. If you felt that banning guns was a good idea and the question said keeping guns was the proper course of action, you got the question wrong. And vice versa, if you felt banning guns was the right idea, data backed you up, you got the question right. Regardless of your numeracy or mathematical skill, you followed your political leanings instead of the actual data. Fascinating study, because it says a lot about us. In fact, if you were to ask Philip Tetlock of the University of Pennsylvania, he would put it in one word as dogma. He did a test as well. He got a 20-year long-term study of over 284 political experts. For the sake of their reputations, he did not say who they were, but he said these are people you hear on TV. 82,361 forecasts were given by these experts by the end of the study in 2003. And these were about everything from the stability of Egypt's government to the price of the euro versus the price of the dollar, things that these people were experts at, things that people were not. What did the study find? People with expertise in a given area were actually worse at predicting true outcomes. As he said, they would be better off with dart-throwing monkeys. He said that the difference between these two groups is what he calls foxes versus hedgehogs. A hedgehog will repel any idea that is against their own biases, where a fox will dig in to investigate more. Our job in presenting data is to create foxes, not hedgehogs. I really like what Unmetric does in their platform. Unmetric is a social channel analytics platform and a partner of Mutual Mind, by the way. They will take a group of Facebook pages, Twitter handles, YouTube channels, what have you. But what's really cool is they put them into channels and they start to tell me things like, a growth rate of 78% Bulgari grew grew view count faster than all of their brands in luxury. See how they grew. Omega Watches grew its subscriber base faster than all of the luxury brands. See how they're growing. This was the most valuable tool I had in my bag when I was in agency life. Why? Because I would take that email, I would go find out what they were doing, and I would send that direct to my client to say, hey, I got a new idea. Let's try what these guys are doing, because it's obviously working. And I looked like a freaking genius compared to everybody else. But it was just the tool asking me to engage and dig in further. You need to control the context of your data. Here are some good questions to ask. Is this data going to appear normal to my users? What is normal to them? Is a 5% variance normal? Or is that drastically different than what they're used to? What numbers are they used to seeing? Are they used to seeing enormous numbers and you suddenly present them with a tiny number, even if it's representative of the same thing? What are their trophy numbers? Trophy numbers are the numbers that we take upwards to our bosses to say, hey, I've done a good job, when we all know they're pretty much bunk. Things in this category include impressions, web page hits, followers, fans, subscribers, and a lot of other metrics often found in social media, unfortunately. Fourth rule, the output is your chance to script the sound bites. Better yet, this opportunity is yours to commit inception. When you present data, your job is to literally insert an idea into someone else's head. Let's talk to someone who knows a thing or two about sound bites, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. If you don't mind, I'll read. A few words that are informative make you smile and are so tasty you might want to tell someone else. There is the anatomy of a soundbite. And don't think that soundbites aren't useful if they don't contain a curriculum. A soundbite is useful because it triggers interest in someone who then goes and puts in the effort to learn more. Take the moment to stimulate interest, and upon doing that, you have set a learning path in motion that becomes self-driven. Because that soundbite was so tasty, why do you think we call them bites? Your job is to script these sound bites. Use the Velcro Theory of Memory. The more often you can create hooks for your data to concrete images or to things they've already experienced in the past or will experience in the future, the more likely they are to remember your data. And by the way, I did this to you because now every time you see a frickin' goldfish, you're going to remember that stat, aren't you? This is inception in progress. Change the space. One of the reasons Mutual Mind we created these HD visualizations is so that we can change the space in which social data was presented from your desktop to something on a wall. A study was done where they asked people to memorize 2 different lists of vocabulary words. In one group, they put them in a windowless conference room and had them study. In another group, they spent half their time in their windowless conference room and the other half the time in a beautifully windowed courtyard. The people who experienced both places had a higher retention rate of twice as much as the people who spent their entire time in that boring conference room. So we should get out of this conference room shortly. Thankfully, it has windows. If you can change the context of your data, you have a better chance of it sticking in their brains. I love what Nest does to me. Anybody else have a Nest thermostat? I love the heck out of that thing. And part of the reason I love it is because I get this little email every month. And this email tells me how many kilowatt hours all Nest schedules have saved, how much I've saved. They actually tell me that thanks to the auto schedule changes you made to the schedule yourself, you have saved yourself 8 hours of heating this winter. Fantastic! That makes me feel better about what I'm doing and incites the proper behavior for me to reduce my energy usage. 2 toolboxes of how to find stickiness. The first one I think is invaluable. It's created by a guy named Stephen P. Anderson. It's called Mental Notes. It's literally a card deck. And on the cards it has a bunch of ideas for just things that make ideas stick. Scarcity, social proof, curiosity, delighters. I can just thumb through that deck and pull out things when I'm bored and find a good idea. The second is a book. It's called Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. This book gets much, much, much further into what a concrete image is, how to make that concrete image attached to an idea, how to make it stick, and it breaks it down much more granularly. So finally, I want to dare you to be whole-brained. There was a study done in Finland of 1,000 grad students. They put them in fMRI. You know what that is? It's a functional MRI, actually animated and sees where the blood is flowing in your brain. They asked them to conduct different exercises. Some of them were very obviously right-brained. They were listening to music or telling a story. Some of them were very obviously left-brained, adding up digits, computing fractions, logic puzzles. But what turned out to be the case was none of them had a particular bias overall. So while the different tasks did light up different segments of their brain, none of them were particularly right-brained or particularly left-brained. That is actually a myth that we are right-brained or left-brained. You're not. When I was in school, I actually sucked at math. You know why I sucked at math? Because algebra was at 7:30 in the morning in high school, and I can't think that early. But I didn't realize that. It actually hurt my progression through understanding math. Now, I'm a much bigger fan, as you can probably guess. And it took my own unlocking of my own brain to figure out that I could actually do this type of thing and teach myself better than maybe a teacher could teach me. Own the insight and make it stick. You will not find data narrator in your organization. But the fact is, the need is still there. Whether you are an analyst or a UX professional or a co-founder of a startup or any other role, if you work with data, you have an opportunity to do these things to find insights and make them stick. No one else is going to do it. It is your opportunity, and there's a massive vacuum for it. You will become incredibly valuable. Sounds like job security to me. And finally, I want you to diversify your knowledge. There are so many areas that affect this study of how data gets from a page or a screen into a brain. And there are so many points of inspiration that can affect your ability to do so. If you go to a conference, take a look at the schedule and cross out any panel that has anything to do with what you do already. Don't go, because you'll already know what's going to be taught. In fact, it'll probably either make you nod or make you mad. So instead, go to panels that have nothing to do with what you know. I would rather be a plumber in a convention of general contractors than a plumber in a convention of plumbers. Here are some of the things that inspired me in creating this topic. 99% Invisible is a fantastic podcast about invisible design. They have done podcasts on everything from challenge coins in the military to wayfinding experiments in airports. Absolutely incredible source of stories. Freakonomics Radio, if you haven't read the Freakonomics books, this is the same guys, they do a podcast, and it's also phenomenal in dealing with behavioral economics. Radiolab, another podcast. You can see I have a long commute. Another podcast that teaches science in brand new ways. I mentioned Nate Silver's Signal and the Noise, which I think is a fantastic book. There are YouTube channels as well. The study I call about motivated numeracy and enlightened self-government, I first discovered on a channel called Numberphile, where they have mathematicians that all are from England, by the way, so at least they have good accents, explaining these types of things to you. And there are many, 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 many more sources that you can pull from. I challenge you to diversify your knowledge. And finally, I'm intoxicated by the possibility of what we can do. When I normally put up this slide, I used to say that I'm intoxicated by what big data can do, that what it can bring to us. And then I heard a story. In 1978, the Nobel Prize was awarded to Robert Woodrow Wilson and Arno Panizis for the detection of cosmic radiation in microwaves. That sounds boring, but in fact, what they had done was proven that this was the evidence for the Big Bang. It was the leftover reverberation of our universe after the Big Bang event. Now, we have so much possibility in taking what sounds very, very boring and turning it into something very, very interesting. And that is what you hold in your hands when you're working with data or presenting it to a user. It's not just controlling the insight, it's controlling what they get to see and the journey they get to take with that data. So with that, I appreciate your time very much. You have many other things you can do in anything such as this. If you would like to see or play this talk, it is on eswayne.com/talks. Or if you just Google eSwayne in South by Southwest, you'll find it as well. And as I mentioned, there's a book coming out later, and I will definitely bring that back to this group when it's done. Any questions? Yeah.
Regarding the see the pattern, know the pattern, break the pattern, that's a really interesting point. If I've got a set of data that looks like it's giving me a trend, but I'm concerned about that coming across, what can I do?
Yeah, it's at that point you actually need to downshift and explain the trend. So in my agency life, I did this all the time, because if we have a campaign if you had 5 campaigns before that performed really well and ours didn't by one metric, then I've got some explaining to do. And that's where you need to downshift and kind of explain what happened. The challenge is doing this in an app, because you don't exactly know what the data is going to be. So you need to build in some rules. And it gets back to that idea of foxes versus hedgehogs. You need to help them dig deeper into that trend. So being able to drill down and being able to point out the need to drill down can be really important in that. Yeah?
So a list of 4 is nice and short, but what if I wanted only one takeaway from tonight that I could put into practice tomorrow to make me better at data narration? What would be the one thing that you think maybe one of your 4 rules are more important?
I would fall back to actually find a good insight. A good insight is sticky of its own right, because it's something that I don't know, something I should know, and something I can change. I mean, if you present it really poorly, it won't have near the impact as if you present it more effectively. But if it meets those 3 criteria, it's probably going to stick in their brains anyway. I like to say CEOs or the C-suite are controlled by anecdotes, not statistics. So you'll often find in your organization these urban legends like, oh, our customers won't click on blue, or oh, that campaign never worked, or oh, this this type of process doesn't work. And you're already thinking of those things inside your organization that we all kind of believe as gospel, but no one's really questioned them. It's because anecdotes fly much further than statistics. So you have to put your insight in that same format in order for it to win the battle against the rest.
Eric, any thoughts on data literacy and how receptive people are to seeing and understanding data?
It's funny, when I think people want data, believe it or not. I think they want facts. Many of you saw that the Heinz and Kraft are merging. One of the groups involved in that merge is a group called 3G. 3G is notorious for streamlining businesses and actually often cutting headcount, but they've also been notorious for data-driven marketing. In fact, they implement a process called zero budget marketing, in which every single dollar spent on marketing has to be has to have a reason, has to be given a purpose and an ROI. That's not a bad practice because it is locking us down to things that actually have real-world impact that we can measure. I think where people get burned is the fact that actually myself and others as analysts have actually done our customers a disservice by bringing them bad data, and they get numb to that. When we bring them things that aren't something they can change, something they don't know, and something they should know. So I think people want data, but they don't want to work for it. So it's our job to do all the work and help those lazy jerks to finally get the insight they need.
Do you know of any thinker who has prepared, say, heuristics on insight finding?
The Philip Tetlock study, he actually has a book called Foxes versus Hedgehogs.
Yeah,
So
I wrote that down.
yeah, so I think you want to take a read through
Okay.
that. And Nate Silver, his stories uncovered a lot of insight for me because he kind of goes underneath the data. There's a guy named Tom Webster. His blog you can find at brandsavant.com. Tom is VP of strategy for Edison Research. Edison Research does all the exit polls for every election in the United States and many abroad. And he's a fascinating mind in both social analytics as well as traditional market research. In fact, they've published recently a study on share of ear to determine how much we listen to podcasts versus other types of radio. In his blog, he goes through a lot of different ideas about studies that work, studies that don't work, things in the world that are correct and things that aren't. He also has a side project called datasnob.com in which he will lovingly tear apart bad studies or bad infographics, which is always a nice way to learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tom is definitely one of the people I listen to.
Con, you said?
Yeah, he's at brandsavant.com. If you Google Tom Webster, you'll find it. Cool, well, that was easy.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Eric, for coming out here and doing this. Any other questions, comments you want to share with the group? Please post comments on the Meetup site. I'll put the April event. Like I said, it's going to be the 21st of April will be our next event. It's going to be back down at the Dallas SMU building down there. And there you have it. Thank you very much for coming out. Share with your friends. We keep growing. We grew another 50 or 60 people since the meeting in February. So keep spreading the word. Thanks for coming out.